to do with where, just thinking about where I could be of the greatest asset to my community. And 26 years of being an educator, I felt like this is where I could really have an impact in improving our community.
And just talking about improving community, what are some of just the top 2 issues that you have on your list in terms of improving community?
Well, there are so many challenges that we face that emanate from the educational arena. So when you talk about joblessness, when you talk about homelessness, a lot of these challenges, we can position our children that come through our school system to be better prepared when they leave our school system. So whether or not someone ends up going to college, if they don't end up going to college, they need to have the skills, the basic skills in reading and math to be able to make inroads into whatever profession or training that they choose to go into. And I think that strengthening our systems that we currently have in our school district to better prepare these students to be self-sufficient and be productive members of the community, I think we'll see the benefits to the community as a whole.
Well, I'm certainly just delighted to have you back.
Thank you so much.
And that you're willing to step in and you know, step up to the line and put yourself out there. So I'm amazed at how many people come back to this community and, I mean, come running back and throwing themselves into the fray to say, hey, I want to help. And we really appreciate that. Steve appreciates it. And we look forward to the future. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Great to see you.
Appreciate it.
Next up on our listening lunch is Miss Catherine Head of the 9th Ward.
Mr. Brady, how are you?
Doing great. Catherine. All right. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right.
Thank
Now-
you.
Now, Catherine, I don't know, you look like a doctor's daughter. I'm going to mess with her a little bit. I know her. And one of her favorite people to talk about is her dad. So, Catherine, tell us a little bit about just who you are.
I grew up here in southeast Evanston. Moved here in 1976. It's not the year I was born, but I'll let you think so if you want. And came back here, went away, lived many different places, but came back here with my 2 small children and my husband because I very specifically wanted to raise my kids, not only in Evanston, but in the Evanston that I grew up in. So I'm really grateful to be raising my family in Evanston and to be part of the Evanston community. I'll echo what some people have said. Evanston is a wonderful place to live and to raise your family, but I do think there are areas where we can do better, and I've had a lot of experiences over the past 8 years that have really shown me some areas where Evanston talks a lot. My joke when I first moved back here was, when someone sneezes in Evanston, we form a committee to say how and if we should say God bless you. So this is a wonderful thing to have so much vibrant discussion in Evanston, but we also have to walk the walk. And I've seen where there's a lot of talk and not enough walk. And people have talked about affordable housing. I loved, Steve, when you were talking about the silos, because I was sitting here listening to everybody, and what I want to say we need more of is intersections. Where can all of these great organizations and great people cross over, and work closer together. We have tons of nonprofits, we have tons of great initiatives, but if we work closer together, and I loved when Megan got up here and talked about community, because we need to be closer, I think. Affordable housing is an issue that my eyes really opened up to the last couple of years. I have a very good friend, a friend for over 18 years now, who needed to move up to Evanston because of a custody situation. And were it not for Reba housing, she could not live here. We looked for over 14 months for an apartment. She has 2 children, and without Reba buildings, this is not a possibility in Evanston. So what I learned from that experience is, you're a single mother, you're a single father, you're a 2-person family with kids, unless you're making upwards of $100,000, Evanston's not a welcoming place for you. And I work, I've walked alongside an immigrant, a refugee family for 8 years, and the intersections there, one has to do with affordable housing, because they are really not given a lot of money for housing. And I've seen recently a Sudanese family evicted from a building in Evanston because when you're not in this country for so long, you don't know that if you don't pay your rent, you can get evicted. The government gives you money for 3 months, and whether you have English or not, after 3 months you're supposed to support yourself and pay your rent and pay your bills, which is a near impossibility, and also a setup for failure, a setup also to not be able to obtain an education. So not only would I like to see more affordable housing outside of the Reba housing development, how do we welcome refugees? How do we, and I'm listening to the man who sat here before me, would his family be able to live in Evanston today, in today's world? And I have 1 kid in Evanston High School and 1 kid in a private school in the city. I see all the great strengths of Evanston High School, but I also see where we're not doing enough. Is there enough education about addiction and alcoholism? Where is the crossover with violence and guns and drugs? How can we do more?
Interesting to hear that, you sent your child outside of Evanston. So that's that's a good point. I don't know your reasons for doing that, but there are reasons that people actually use for that they need something outside of Evanston. So we don't have everything all together here for everyone, right? So the one size fixes everything, Evanston. So I just wanted to point that out, but I definitely appreciate you sharing your story. And I wanted to give Steve an opportunity if he wanted to comment.
Sure. I think after 2 hours I remember I have my microphone here. Thank you, Catherine, for those remarks. I will, let me just comment about sort of a more macro thing that's going on around the world, or around the United States at least, as it relates to yours. I'm really concerned, and this is something that I talked to the students at ETHS about, that we're entering this almost postmodern world, right, with these facts and everything else. And, I don't, given everything that's going on in the United States, I don't want to see us all of a sudden normalize hate and normalize division and normalize alternative facts. And I really think that Evanston is sort of the epicenter, or can be one of the epicenters around the United States of, social justice and standing up for people and standing up for what's right. And how do we do that? I mean, I think we double down on empathy. I think we double down on kindness. And some of the things that you were talking about with the refugee families and stuff like that. I had the good fortune when I was a child I'm Catholic now, I was a Unitarian back then, and my family was, and we brought over a Cambodian family, the church did. And there were 3 families that were part of that, and they really needed that wraparound kind of services. Like you said, hey, the government will help you for a couple months, but you don't speak the language and everything else. And it was us and the Bisdoms and another family, and it was an amazing experience for our church and for our family to go through, and to see that family come to the United States with everything that we had to offer. And even though you might look and say, wow, life wasn't that great for them. I mean, they very large family, lived in a small place, didn't speak the language, and 10 years later, their daughter was going to college. Vonnie Sao worked 3 different jobs, worked incredibly hard. I certainly want to see Evanston continue on with the values that, again, generations and generations of people have had in this community, and people here today have expressed. And I think the service we will provide will not only serve those in our own community, but far beyond here.
Catherine, thank you for sharing your story with us, and Steve, thanks for your comments.
Thank you.
All right, next up on our listening lunch is Shar Oda. So we have Charlotte Oda here, who also goes by Shar. She's from the Reba community and is a wonderful mother, and she's also my surrogate mom. I lost my mom at 17 when I was a high school senior, and I ended up at Reba some years ago, and I shared that with the congregation and with her, and she came up to me after service and said, "I'll be your mom." Oh. I'll never forget that. She never forgets my birthday, and she's one of the sweetest people on the earth. So Shar, tell us a little bit about your story and what you do here in the Reba community.
Okay, well, I'm part of...
Keep that mic close to you so we can hear you.
Place Fellowship, and I live in the same household that Megan does. But I'm also part of the Place Church here, and I coordinate a ministry called the Sunshine Group, and that's what I wanted to tell you about. It's a place of welcome for people with mental disabilities and physical disabilities, and we meet here in this room twice a month, Friday, the first and the third Friday of the month, and we want to welcome people and have friendships. So it's a long-standing thing. A woman named Martha Cooper and her husband Dale did it for a long time. And Martha had polio as a child, was disabled. And so I'll tell you a little bit about how we do it. We have a meal together, and a man comes and sets the tables for us. These are all volunteers, and gets up the tables and chairs, makes coffee, and then I come in and put out flowers on the table and set the table. And then some women from the church come in, well, not only from this church, but some from Living Water Help and St. Mary's and different, people that we know come and help with food. We mainly order pizza, but we have some salad and fruit. And so then people start coming in and have coffee and, just sit down and chat. And so it's just a friendship and welcoming thing. And then we sit at the tables and eat, and I noticed just that people really enjoy the people that they're with. They are usually with the same people every time. So it's a place of developing relationships. And then after dinner, Megan actually helps, and she is our announcer. She announces things that are going on and thanks people. And then we have a woman who tells a story. And one story that I liked a lot was about a boy who wanted to buy a puppy, and the puppy, there was the whole litter, and he wanted the runt of the litter, and the farmer who was selling them thought, that's not a good idea. And then the boy showed him that he had a brace on his leg and that he would understand this little puppy and take care of him. So anyway, it's kind of this, empathy and compassion thing. And I'm glad you mentioned that. And so then after dinner and after cleanup, we have a time of singing, like Amazing Grace and How Great Thou Art, and different things that people like to sing. And then we have a little time of Bible story and acting it out. People like to be actors. So that's that part. And then we have a time of prayer, sharing burdens and praying for each other. And then we end by singing God is so good. So I just wanted you to know about this group. And I was thinking about what the city can do. There was a group of people who wanted to provide housing for people with mental disabilities, and it was hard to do that in Evanston. So that was something that the city could do to help make that easier.
Thank you, Shar. And we'll give Steve an opportunity to either comment or share.
I was just going to say thank you, Sharon, as well, for sharing about that. I would certainly like to come by sometime and visit. That would be nice.
February 17th is our next one. We're actually going to a break.
Maybe we'll do it in March. I don't know. As Rob said, we have an election coming up, and it's on February 28th, and you don't even want to look at my calendar. It'll give you a headache. So I can't make any promises for February, but if we get 50% plus one of the vote on February 28th, then it'll free up my March, and I can definitely make it. So thank you. And thank you for everything that you're doing for folks with mental illness and everything, because we all know this invisible disease, and we all have challenges and struggles and all of that, and I think it's really important that we be compassionate and sensitive towards those that have invisible challenges as well.
Thank you.
Well said. Thank you.
Eula.
All right, next up on our listening lounge, let's invite Eula. Yulia Beresova.
All right, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Yulia, you've got a mic right there, if you don't mind grabbing that and keeping it pretty close so we can hear you.
Okay.
And so, Yulia, now, I've witnessed some of your boxes around town, especially in Ridgeville Park District, so I'm excited for everyone to hear about that. But first, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Yulia Borisova. I'm Russian. I was born in Kazakhstan, grew up in Russia when it was still a part of, both were part of the Soviet Union. Came to the U.S. for graduate school, ended up getting married and settling down. And I've been living, I first came to Evanston in 2001. And then I lived in Rogers Park for a few years, and then we came back once our oldest became 5, so got 5, so we thought, okay, that should be it. So what I've heard when I was listening to some of the previous talkers talk about how they want more togetherness in Evanston, this is also what I really want for us all to be more together, and I really appreciated your words about community cohesiveness the other day at Shoot School. And so what I'm doing, I think, addresses that from a specific angle. I'm trying to get kids to come outside and play on the streets and in the parks, and kind of like do it in a self-directed way without parents managing it.
Sure.
And I've organized a few projects, a little bit different. One is called Evanston Games in the Park, and we meet up between 1 to 4 times a month to play old-fashioned games in the park. Because I remember loving it so much when I was a kid. So we played like Kick the Can and Red Rover. It's been a big hit. And then we do the box boxes. It's called a pop-up adventure playground, when we bring all sorts of recyclables, mostly cardboard and tape, and then really just a bunch of random stuff. And if you haven't seen one of those, the energy is so contagious and so compelling when the kids see it. It's really magical because they know what they want to do and they go for it, and the motivation is just magical. And then I was also trying to do like a street play kind of thing on my block, because I don't see much of that at all. So I was just gonna, I wanted to talk about what I want to see more in Evanston, which is more kids outside. Possibly without, adult supervision, or with like minimal adult supervision, because I think it's really important, because when they do it on their own, and they're allowed and encouraged to venture and to explore, I think they grow, they develop a better sense of self. They get to own the place, and eventually they really, they're growing, they're becoming future citizens, good citizens, future active citizens of their neighborhood, of their city, possibly of their country. And it's just not happening enough right now, because they're being driven and taken, and they often don't even, they don't know how to get from place to place. So I think that, it might seem like a little thing, kids playing outside, but I think it's very crucial. I think it goes to the core of the cohesiveness, because when kids are, it's not that they get to own the place, their parents start paying attention to what's going on in their block, in their neighborhood. They get more invested in their neighborhood. They want it to be safer. They want it to be more livable. So I see Evanston, for example, having regular, like when residential streets hopefully will have regular permissions to close like a block for street play. When kids can come out, sometimes, it happens, it's kind of ridiculous the way it happens. Like a block down from where I live on South Boulevard. On one side of South Boulevard, there are kids playing outside all the time. But there's a bunch of kids living on the other side of South Boulevard, and they somehow don't ever connect and don't ever play together, which I think is such a shame. And the ideas that it instills in the kid's mind, that, okay, those kids are on the other side, we're on this side, we're not connecting. That's wrong. So they should be doing it on their own, in their own way, discovering things, exploring them, developing social skills, becoming future active citizens.
Wow. What a great presentation. Thank you.
I have stage fright, so I have my little
No,
sheet
you
here.
did just fine. You did great. So it sounds like I'd like to use a word called creative play. Get back to creative play, and that's kids.
Yeah, discovery. It also allows more room for like riskier play when kids decide what they're gonna try or what they're not gonna try. Because they need to develop these skills, the risk assessing skills.
How can we help you keep doing this?
Oh.
Are we doing enough?
I'm
wrap up.
kind of like a one-person operation right
Okay.
now, but I'm hoping to grow, because I love it. I get to play too. So.
Folks at Ridgeville are very happy
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you're doing what you're doing.
So yeah, I'm looking for storage. I would love to start a play street program with the city, where we could do regular street closures, like just one block, and have everyone come out. And I've got ideas about how to do it. It shouldn't cost anything except for the, like closing the street. I don't know how much that will cost. And yeah, so Chicago has been doing it, but I really like the model that Seattle is using. They have a slightly different model.
All right. Well, we'll be hopeful for that, and we need to continue this conversation.
Right,
So thank you so much, Julia.
Julia.
All right.
That's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
All right. And we have coming to the couch, Ann Cavode.
Hi. Nice to see you.
All right, Ann just happens to be my board mate at Ridgeville, and also a wonderful Ninth Ward resident, as well as volunteer on some boards. So, all right, Ann, I stole a little bit of your thunder, but Ann, tell us a little bit. Tell us your story.
Tell us what we don't know.
Well, I moved here about 24 years ago when my daughter was 1 year old. And fell in love with Evanston because of all the diversity and everything it had to offer. I sent my 3 daughters to Oakton, Chute, and the high school. And we were very happy with those, and I felt that my daughters had a really broad education, and I think diversity was something that has really helped them as they left Evanston with a much broader view of the world than a lot of the people they encounter at their universities and things like that. I'm also on the YOU board with Steve, so I know Steve very well from that. I guess what I was thinking today, though, is what could I talk about that concerns me about Evanston that a mayor could possibly work on? And so another thing that I do is I have a small part-time job at Title IX in Evanston, which is on Church Street downtown. And so just in the last few months, we've had 3 businesses within a block of that store closing. So that concerns me because I think that, you know, we've talked a lot about social programs here today and ways that we can help people in Evanston, but if we don't have a strong financial base for the city, it's hard to do a lot of those things. So one of the things I think is part of the problem is if there's not a lot of businesses here in Evanston where people are working here during the day. So I just wanted to maybe talk about some of those things, like how we can possibly attract more businesses to Evanston, keep them here. Do we need to revamp the downtown? I don't know if there's any talk about that, but that's just one of my concerns.
Wow, well that's a big one. I think I was asked that at a candidate forum, or that was a question on the candidate forum. I don't know if the mayor's received that or not, but that's a big question we're facing. How to attract businesses and also retention, keeping them, and keeping the city vibrant. Steve, you got any thoughts on that?
I don't have a solution necessarily, but let's put some context into what's going on. You know, one is we would like to have some more commercial buildings, you know, in Evanston that bring people there during the day and everything else. They don't necessarily use city services, schools, and all the other things that condos or apartment buildings would use, right? And so we get the influx of 1,000 people coming to this building every day. They go out for lunch. It supports our restaurants and things like that. The market's not bringing that to us, right? I mean, and again, I have a respect for the marketplace. And, you know, these folks are in business to make money, and they run their numbers, and it doesn't work, right? And part of it's Cook County's property taxes and everything else. The second thing is a real macro trend that's going on in the world, which is, you know, the advent of the internet and the significant increase in sales that people are doing online, right? And that's only going to continue to increase, right? And that puts pressure on stores like Title IX and other retailers down there. So people are shopping less and less there. They're shopping more and more online. So, you know, what are the things that we can control? We can certainly, you know, control our portion of the, you know, city property taxes, okay, and things like that, which I think, again, we have high property taxes. We need to make sure we control those, or it affects all sorts of things. I think that we can certainly promote and work hard through the leaders of the city and business leaders that we have in the city to promote Evanston. I think we can make sure that we continue to tighten up our community, and particularly our business community. In the old days, you had big manufacturing companies, and all these owners and these principals and executives all knew one another. Today, it's a knowledge-based economy. Everyone really, like my company is like this and many others, where we're here in Evanston, we have 20 employees that are in Evanston alone, and there's some elsewhere around the country, but we sell services outside of Evanston for the most part. So what can we do to, enhance the business community so principals and owners know one another? There's value in